In December 2003, I had one semester left of my degree at North Carolina State University in Raleigh. And have we got any Wolfpackers out there? Anybody? Yes, sir. Anyway, I was getting ready to get a degree in communications, which y'all, I didn't even know what a communications degree was when I first got into school. I just knew. I went to my academic advisor, and she starts going through all the majors, and she broke each one of them down also in their demographic of male to female ratio. And she said communications now has 80% women, 20% men. And I'm like, that's the one. Yeah, that's what I'm going to take. I'm going to learn how to communicate with these people. And so I was getting a degree in something that I really didn't know much about or if I would ever use. And I'm still wondering, what am I going to do with myself? One semester left of school. I'm bartending my way through school, which I absolutely loved, but I knew that I couldn't just be a bartender for the rest of my life. I went home for Christmas break. I'm laying in my bed, and I couldn't sleep. I'm tossing, I'm turning, and I had this phrase in my head over and over: wine to water. Wine to water. And at first I was, to be honest, I was a little freaked out. I'm like, what's the deal? Why can't I get this phrase out of my head? And then I thought, you know what, wait a minute. Isn't that backwards, right? Wasn't there this really cool guy a couple thousand years ago who did the opposite? So why do I have this in my head? And I don't understand it. So I picked up a pad and pencil. I actually am also a bit of a musician, and I play guitar, and I like to write some kind of country songs. And so I was thinking maybe this could be a cool song. And I picked up the paper, and I start writing it down. But there was something more there. I knew. And I remember right underneath, when I wrote down wine to water, I wrote down, well, what's the deal with water? With a big question mark. And right this time, this is into 2003, you'll have to understand that I'm probably one of the most untech savvy people that you ever meet. I had just really started learning how to use email at this time. But somebody told me that there's this thing out there called Google, and you could just type in whatever you want, and amazingly, like, all this information would come up. So I went downstairs, got on my parents' computer, typed in water problems, water issues. And the first thing I saw was some report by the United Nations that said 1.1 billion people in the world don't have access to clean water. And I remember being like, well, this Google thing is all jacked up. That can't be right. 1 billion people? I'm not a math major, remember, I'm a communications major, but I'm pretty sure there's only 6 or 7 billion people in the world. And if over 1 billion of them don't have access to clean water, I'm pretty sure I would have found out about this by now. I kept looking, I kept researching. Report after report continued to confirm what I had found out. The next thing I learned is that water kills more children in our world than anything else. HIV/AIDS is number 2. Malaria is number 3. And at that time, tuberculosis was number 4. And water kills more than all 3 of those combined together. Yet received less than 20% of the funding and research, while the other ones received well over 80%. I have to be honest with y'all, that night I got a little bit pissed off. I got really upset. I had something inside of me that began to grow, and I didn't know what to do with it. I'm learning all these things, and I'm like, this is not right. To me, this is looking like it could potentially be the greatest crisis facing our world, and I don't know anybody that knows anything about it. I stayed up the rest of that entire night and continued to fill up that piece of paper, that pad, with the concept for this organization that I'm now running. And I didn't know that it would actually become an organization. I just knew that it was going to become something, a movement, an event, or something. So I jotted down the concept for a wine to water event where maybe I could raise some money to help fight this crisis. And I did. I held the very first event a month and a half later in February of 2004. And y'all got to understand, I've never even been to a fundraiser, much less have put one on myself. So it was a little scary, but I was committed, because for the first time, I'm like, you know that loud voice in your head sometimes that's like, you can't do that. I found there was another one way back there that contradicted that voice and said, no, you can do this. And so for the first time I listened to that, in a month and a half, I was able to pull this event together. I don't know if y'all know much about bartenders, but we usually have a decent amount of access to resources, if you will. And so I had access to a wine distributor locally that donated free wine for our event. I obviously had access to an amazing musician for live music right here, yours truly. And we had access to food. We put together this whole event in a month and a half. That night raised $6,000. At the same event, there's another restaurant owner that says, hey, I want to do one of these events at my restaurant. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I did another event, and then I set up a P.O. box, and people started sending in checks for this cause that I had started. And then I kind of got a little freaked out, because after a couple months, I'm sitting on an account with tens of thousands of dollars in it. And I have no idea how to get it to these people here. I'm a bartender. I like to think I'm a decent musician, but I really wasn't a decent musician. I sang stuff like Johnny Cash, because when you do Johnny Cash, you just sing, I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. Like, you don't have to sound really good. You just kind of mumble. So, and how am I going to get water to these people? And so I thought about it a long time, and I just decided, you know what? It's no point for me to actually physically go. I just need to take this money I'm raising and find another organization out there that's doing great work and just direct the money to them. So I did some research, and I found out that there was an organization based in North Carolina. It's called Samaritan's Purse. And I learned that they had water programs for like 20 plus years. But the biggest thing I learned was that over 92% of their money actually went to programs. And that was important to me, because I worked really hard to raise this money, and the people around me really trusted me with the money that I had raised, and I wanted as much of it to go to the people that needed it as possible. So I got a meeting with they had a head well driller that had drilled wells for 20 plus years with them, who was running all of their projects at the time. I got a meeting with him, and I had everything planned out perfectly that I wanted to say. I was really nervous, because I walked into this office in this organization, and I immediately am out of place. I came in looking just like this, and everybody else was very professional and buttoned up, and I realized my tattoos are coming down below my sleeve. I started getting a little self-conscious that maybe I don't belong here. So I had this whole speech planned for this guy. His name is Kenny Isaacs, and I said, Mr. Isaacs, I've been raising all this money. I'm a bartender in Raleigh. I'm going to keep raising this money. I'm just going to send it to your organization and to the projects you're doing. And right in the middle of my little speech, he cuts me off. And he says, whoa. You're a bartender in Raleigh. You started these events and started raising money just just to do it. And you're just going to send us money for free. I'm like, yes, sir, that's what I said. And he asked me, why do you care? I've been doing this work for 20 years, and nobody knows much about this water crisis, much less cares about it. So why do you care? And I didn't have a good answer for his question. I just said, you know, I don't really understand why, but something happened to me a few months ago, and I feel like I can have an impact on this world now, and that I'm a part of something bigger than myself. And I don't ever want to go back to who I was before. So he stopped me and he said, all right, I tell you what, keep your money. I don't want it. Why don't you come work for me? I'll send you anywhere in the world you want to go. You're getting ready to graduate. Anywhere you want to go, and I'll teach you to do this work in the field. And that way, when you come back, if you want to keep going with this organization, you'll know how to do this work here in the field, and you'll also know how to raise the money. And it seems like you've already got a good jump start on that.